What's great about the Chaplaincy Unit is that we have those resources that Chaplain Farah and I are consistently out in the field and in different areas, contacting members of the Sheriff's Office, reminding them that it's okay to have faith. It's okay to express your faith. It's okay to live your faith. It's okay to share your faith.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Inside JSO, and we've got something really exciting to talk about, and it's a topic that you might not hear about a lot in law enforcement, but we think it's an important one: faith and fellowship. And that's not just for some people, that's for everyone here at our agency, everyone who wants it. So certainly we're joined here by the Chaplaincy Unit, our two chaplains right over here, Pastor McDonald and Chaplain Farah. Thank you both for coming in. Sheriff Waters, good to have you back on Inside JSO. I know that this has been an important message for you to the team, the civilians and the police officers here, as you and your administration re-engineered the chaplaincy program.
No, I'm glad to be back. It's a part of just a new look for the agency and how we're doing things, and putting focus on things that normally you wouldn't normally think the focus would be on. And that's people's health and wellness. That's people's faith. And listen, this is the United States of America. My faith is in Jesus Christ, but it doesn't matter. We're here to serve whatever needs people have.
Absolutely. So we know your faith journey, and you talk about it fairly openly with the public, and, obviously an admirable thing there. There are men and women who work here from all different backgrounds, all different faiths, all different faiths, all different nationalities. What does that mean to bring everybody together for one cause, which is health and wellness and camaraderie?
I think, first of all, the United States is the greatest country on the planet. And because of that, you can worship in any way you see fit, right? And the agency is the same way. We don't look down on anyone for having another belief or another thought process. And we just want people to make sure they understand they feel healthy. They feel like when they come to work, this is a good place where they can come and they can exercise whatever it is they need to exercise.
All right. Wonderful. So let's talk to our chaplains here. Pastor, chaplain, chappie, you've got a lot of different names.
Right.
Also detective, because when I met you, you were a detective in robbery and violent crime. So you were a patrol officer and then became a specialized detective. Tell me, Chaplain, about moving over into this new type of service within the agency and our community.
Yeah, sure. So I always wanted to be a police officer. 20 years ago, I was here as a community service officer. Ended up going to the military for a little while, came back, did some different things, but came back to my love of police work. And I've been back as an officer for 9 years now. So I started on the street, worked as a patrol officer, a violent crimes task force officer, and then worked in robbery and violent crimes for 3 years. And this was about the time that the sheriff and the undersheriff were unwrapping the new health and wellness initiative and bringing all kind of ancillary units to provide for the overall well-being and the care of all of our members. And so they asked for me to come over, and this is the first time that they've actually been able to implement a full-time active duty officer as a chaplain at the sheriff's office. And so I have the unique ability, the outstanding ability to both serve now as a law enforcement officer still, but provide ministerial services to the members of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
And what does that look like day to day?
So it's a variety of things. And really, we started from ground zero when Chaplain Farah and I came on and started trying to look at what we felt the needs of the agency were from a faith standpoint. And so we created a very proactive ministry to where we don't want the chaplains just to show up when bad things happen, or when emergencies take place. We want to go out. We want to encourage people. We want to increase people's faith, whatever that faith may be. And we want to make them stronger and more resilient in their faith so that they're better prepared to navigate those difficulties and hard times when they come. And so we're doing a host and a variety of different initiatives to try to do that. And we're going out in the field and we're meeting with them where they are. And they have very busy lifestyles, very busy job performance responsibilities. And so oftentimes we go out and meet with them in their setting, wherever they are, both civilians, law enforcement, corrections, and we'll go to their roll calls. and we'll speak to them, and we'll maybe have a devotion or offer prayer if they want it, even ride in the patrol car with them. And Greg will ride as a civilian and I'll ride as a law enforcement officer, and whatever best suits them or whatever they're looking for, we have that capability on both ends of the spectrum.
Right. They have options. And it's important to point out this is not just for the sworn members of this agency. We have sworn law enforcement agents, officers and detectives here, but there's also corrections. There's also civilian. And this is for everybody. I heard a story this week that you went out with one of our crews, Stacy, one of our multimedia specialists. You responded to some calls with an officer, responded to a crash, and then ended up praying over somebody who was injured. Is that how I heard it?
With injuries. And when you're on the street of patrol officer, you don't know what the next call is going to be. And so whatever comes about, whatever the needs are, you respond to it. And so at this point, one of the calls we responded to was a crash with injuries, 3-car crash. And there were some injuries on that scene. One lady was bleeding from the ear. The other one had some injuries from airbags and different things. And so we showed up as a law enforcement capacity, started blocking off lanes, started providing services, and they were going to approach and assess their injuries. Rescue was showing up about the same time. And so we made sure to immediately get them with the rescue personnel, assess their injuries. And then when everything kind of slows down and we make sure that everybody's okay, make sure the police work's being done, the traffic units had shown up and taken over by this point, then it actually allowed an opportunity that I could speak with them a little bit and check on them personally to see how they're doing. Even the citizens get to benefit from what we're doing. And so we spoke with the citizens there. I was able to pray with a couple of them. And then we check on the officers while we're on scene as well and make sure we see how they're doing. And it provides a great opportunity while we're out in the field to minister to them, not just when we're riding in their car individually, but even when we see them out in public, wherever we are.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And I think that a lot of people in the general public don't necessarily notice that officers go from oftentimes one traumatic call to another traumatic call to another traumatic call without much time to decompress and to de-stress and to take it in. And then, wow, when they look back at their day, oh my gosh, they saw a lot of trauma.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things that could be stressful. And unfortunately, that comes home with them sometimes into their family lives, their personal lives.
They take those stressors on them all day long. It's on a daily basis. And that stuff is culminating, and it can weigh on them. And so any impact that we can have on them, and it's not exclusive to Chaplain Farah and myself. We try to increase people of faith so that they can be bold and strong in their faith, and so that they can also impact the people that they work around. Because faith is much bigger than just the chaplains or the chaplaincy unit. Faith is for all people. And so if they can operate and live in their faith and live out their faith on a daily basis, and we can increase their faith a little bit, and maybe they'll have the courage to also step out by faith and encourage those around them. And if we can just touch their life anytime that we possibly can to try to alleviate some of that burden, some of that stress, some of those things they do take home with them on a daily basis, then that's our goal.
Beautiful. Chaplain Farah, I want to get to you because you joined the agency a little less than 2 years ago, but you had been working alongside JSO for much, much longer.
Sir.
Tell us about your journey to being here and why you have chosen to serve at JSO with our sheriff's officers and detectives in the community.
Yeah, so I spent 30 years as a career in food service industry. I coached high school football for about 6 years. And in 2018, my wife and I went on a 25-year wedding anniversary to Israel with our church. And I felt a call to vocational ministry at that point. And firmly believed that I was supposed to do something different with my life. So explored the opportunity. And a couple of years after we're getting back, I got hired by our church. And 2 years after being hired, I ended up in the position as pastor of our prison campuses and first responder ministry, which we were launching in 2022. And out of that first responder ministry, I ended up being approached by Chaplain Gerald, who's our retired chaplain now, about coming aboard as a part-time chaplain to partner with Cory as one of our chaplains here. And that's how I got started at the agency. Our leadership at the church was really flexible with my schedule. The undersheriff was really flexible with how many hours he was, allowing me to work here. So it's really worked out well at the church and here at the agency with how the schedule works. And I'm able to split the time and do what I'm able to do here and at the church. So it's been a real blessing for me to be able to do what I do. It's an interesting dichotomy being a prison campus pastor and a pastor of first responders, because I see both sides of the spectrum. But
Sure.
We've been really fortunate to be able to minister to the patrol officers here and the civilian employees And I've been really thankful to be able to do what I do here. I've loved working with Cory. I'm very thankful to the sheriff. As Cory said, we're really proactive in what we do. I love getting out and doing ride-alongs with our patrol officers and just trying to get to know them so that we could build relationship with them, because it's all about being available to them when they need us, and not, if they don't know us when they need us, then they're not going to reach out. But so building that relationship is really important.
Be there on the good times and in the tough times.
Absolutely.
I love that. And, you know, you talked about the dichotomy of serving in the prisons and in the corrections facilities as well as here. I think that the common denominator is everybody is human.
For sure.
And everybody makes mistakes, and everybody has, you know, rough times. And I think, you know, whether somebody's incarcerated or whether they're out there trying to serve the public, having that support system pays dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives me a little bit of understanding what our corrections officers go through as well. So it gives me the flexibility of being able to work with them just as much as I'm able to work with the patrol officers.
So Sheriff, not to call you out, but I believe at this podcast table and in this room, you've been with the agency the longest. Over 30 years and serving as sheriff. What have you seen with the progression of this? If I know that you've gotten feedback about health and wellness as a whole for our officers, for the JSO family, for the home life. What have you been hearing? Because people come up to you all the time and they're always giving you testimonials.
Well, I mean, good things, really good things. It's the first time, as was already stated, that this is a full-time thing for the agency. And for so long, it was part-time, you know, and a lot of times we had maybe a chaplain for our corrections side. We had a chaplain here or there, but there was no one there permanently. And now that someone's here permanently, you'll see Cory, he's done a couple, unfortunately, funeral services for us. Very well done, very, very focused, very, just an honor to be able to see him do that, and do that from the agency standpoint as the head of the agency. Seeing Greg, I walk around and I see Greg standing in different places and talking to folks, and you know that it's nothing but positive. I've gotten zero complaints from anyone about what's going on within the agency with our chaplaincy program, which is really good.
Yeah, it's a special program, and I think now's the time to turn the tables to you two to tell me what, without obviously identifying any individuals, what are some of the stories? What are some of the successes that you have seen just since this has been, let's say, rejuvenated in the past couple of years?
So from a 10,000-foot view, I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish already. I can't recall the numbers right now, but I sent some numbers up for the impact that we had last year, just kind of as a yearly updated report. And the number of personal contacts or officer-initiated or member-initiated contacts of them coming to us through the relationships we've been able to build to allow us to do ministerial service to them has been overwhelming. And so, and I'll be honest, we haven't had anyone that I've noticed, and Greg, you can speak to this too, that has been resistant towards what we're doing, which I was a little nervous about in the beginning, if I'm honest, because the way we operate is a perform-or-provide capacity. And so I'm of the Christian faith, Greg is of the Christian faith, so is the sheriff. And so there's a lot of Christianity within the sheriff's office, and it's one of the most widely known and widely celebrated and practiced religions. But that's not all we have. We've encountered and contacted multiple people of different faith groups. And so what I mean by perform or provide is if there's something that's something within our wheelhouse that we can do. And Greg and I are both ordained ministers. I've been in ministry over 20 years and surrendered my life to preach the gospel at 17 years old. That's over 20 years of preaching, served in different capacities. I pastor a church locally now for about 9 years as well. And so having that ministerial abilities and that performer bike. So if it's in our wheelhouse, then we can provide that service to them immediately. No questions asked. There's no slowdowns. There's no hiccups, no road bumps. But if it's something that's outside of our area of responsibility or outside of our subject matter expert or our knowledge or something like that, or in a different religion, we've actually partnered with clergy in the community and built relationships with them of different faith groups that we have their personal cell phone numbers, they have ours, and we can call them, and in a moment's notice, they'll come provide that service for the member of the sheriff's office. And so it's more about building relationships than it is forcing religion on anybody. And so it's been very well received. And so we could go into countless context of stories that we have. And if you have a personal testimony you can share, Greg, of a person that we've been able to encounter and really help through a hard time.
Yeah, I think just from a 30,000-foot view as well, I think we're seeing a lot of folks take personal ownership of their faith. I know just off the top of my head, we're seeing in one of our specialty units, we've got some folks that are leading book studies, faith-related book studies. And I don't know that it's ever been done in that particular unit before. We're seeing Bible studies pop up in the community that are specialized strictly for JSO members, and they're popping up all over town. So that's been really encouraging to see members of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office stepping into their faith in a leadership capacity. They're wanting to lead these book studies or lead these Bible studies. And I'm hoping that at some point we start to see them happening for members of other faith initiatives as well.
And to be fully transparent, Vic, because of confidentiality clauses that we fall under, and we're very, very careful about that, because when people come meet with us, their information is safe with us.
Absolutely.
So we have 2 Florida state statutes that we actually fall under that protects all the information they give to us. And so we guard that very closely. And so there's not too many specific stories that we can share as far as what people have gone through or what they've done. They don't want that information out. That's why they come to us in confidence. However, what I can say is we've had people come to the faith that were not of any kind of faith group, that we've been able to lead to some kind of a faith or some kind of organized religion or something like that. We've had people who had departed the faith, or who had gotten cold and distant from their faith, who have been encouraged through our efforts to come back to their faith and really reinvigorate that within themselves, within their families. We've had staff members that have entrusted us to hold services and ceremonies and different things for them when they've experienced loss in their families and different things like that, which I think speaks volumes. Not to give ourselves any credit at all. I mean, it's all to the glory of God that He allowed us, Greg and I, to do what we do. However, it's humbling, that we can have the relationships that we have with people, and just coming from a very personable place to say, hey, we're your peers. And I joke and I tell people, we're not some mythical figures that hide in an office somewhere that you only have to go see if you get in trouble. We're your peers. We're your friends.
Yeah.
And both of us having ministers' hearts and having ministerial duties, we have a heart for people. And that's what my life has always been, is in service to country, to community, and especially to my Savior, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we thank you for your service. 1 in law enforcement, 2 in the U.S. military. Greg, I got to give you a shout out, because you have this web of resources. Obviously we are a government agency. We can't do everything in the confines of this agency, but when we do lose someone, when someone is sick, when someone is struggling with their family or something like that, I've been able to see you and your churches and the people that you fellowship with show up and bring those resources together. And I can't tell you how many times you've hosted, whether it's memorial services or prayer vigils, or today you were talking about a law enforcement appreciation barbecue and car wash and all that. So it's got to be good to be able to be on the outside and on the inside at the same time, to bridge that gap between the resources.
Yes, sir. This isn't a shameless plug for our church, so I'm not throwing names out there, but our church is very supportive of first responders, and we can't do what we do without Sheriff Waters' support. He's been very, very supportive of what we're doing as a church. We have tons of resources available because we believe firmly in what we started over 3 years ago in that 10-10 Life initiative, that Christ came to give us life and give it to us abundantly. And that's why we launched this first responder initiative, because we know that we have an enemy who comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, and he wants to rob us of that abundant life. And so we want to do everything we can to partner with first responders, and specifically with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, to be able to provide everything we can to give first responders that abundant life that Christ promised us. So everything we can do, whether it's counseling services, facility usage, barbecue appreciation days, whatever it might be, we want to do everything we can as a church to support that. So that's what we're doing.
It's wonderful. And Sheriff, I know you talked about it in the beginning here, but faith is very important to you and your family, and you've seen a lot.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot in your career, and I know that you've personally told myself and some of our colleagues just how important and how impactful it's been for you and your family.
Well, first of all, let me say this, because there may be someone watching that says that the Sheriff's Office is not a religious organization, and it is not. It's a government organization. But the wonderful thing about an organization like this one, it doesn't say that there's freedom from religion. You know, we can have relationships with our Savior. We can have a relationship. It says that we have a freedom of religion. We're not just, the government's not going to establish a religion. We haven't done that. What we do here is we offer a service to anyone who wants that service, anyone who wants to come and talk to somebody. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your religion is. It's the fact that we want to be here to not only serve our community, but to serve the men and women of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. So I wanted to get that out of the way first. Secondly, when I tell you that for me, my relationship with Jesus Christ and my journey has been, it's been really important for me to be able to stand where I stand and have the rock solid beliefs that I have and not be moved very easily at all, and be steadfast in my belief in law and order and my belief. All that plays a part. My relationship with Jesus Christ plays a big part in how I view all these things. He also came to set people free. So you're free to do the things that you want to do and make decisions on your own. How it's helped me tremendously is having a relationship with the Lord himself has helped me stand up through some very, very difficult times in my life, in my family's life. And we are not immune because I'm wearing a uniform with a badge on it that says Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and I'm elected by the people to hold this office. I'm not immune from the everyday problems of anyone else.
Right.
And I like for people to remember this. A police officer comes to work, or a corrections officer comes to work, or our civilians come to work, because civilians work just as hard as we do, just in different avenues, but it's just as important. And they see sometimes the worst that mankind has to offer. So you take all that upon yourself and you deal with the process of dealing with that stuff. And then along with that, you may have issues at home. You may have issues with your marriage. You may have issues with your finances. You may have issues with your kids, anything. So now, not only do you have what you see every single day, but you have those issues that you're dealing with personally. And then you have the things that you come across, not politically, but community-wise, where you're dealing with the issues that you hear from other people. If you bottle all that up and there's no way to let it out and talk to people, it can become problematic, I believe. So along with our health and wellness section, we also have our chaplaincy program, which allows outlets for the men and women that work here, no matter what capacity you're working, to access something that will help them get through whatever it is they're dealing with. And because we want the best us possible while we serve the members of this community. And I believe that my job is a ministry. I'm a servant. That literally means I'm a minister or a servant to this community. And I want to be the very best servant that I can be. And helping me do that is a relationship with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And that's how I deal with it. And I walk through it personally. And it's been good for me, really, really good for me. And I'm very glad that these men are here to help us do that for the members of the agency that want it, and that voluntarily come to people and ask for it.
Yeah. And a key point there that you brought up is that it translates into the community. This is not just for internal reasons only, because a healthier officer, a happier officer is going to provide better service on the street.
Absolutely. I think without, if you don't feel good, how can you help other people? It's it's very difficult to do that. It's almost impossible. If you're not feeling good, if you're not thinking the right thoughts, if you're not dealing with some of the issues in your own life, how can you help other people work through theirs? But although don't get me wrong, I want them to be the very best that they can be for our public. I think the better they are, the better the agency is. But I actually care about the people that work here. I've seen officers commit suicide. I've seen so many different things happen. And you often wonder why that's happening. Why did that happen? Sometimes we don't get answers for it. But whatever I can do and whatever power I have, I would like to use that to help other people to be well and take care of themselves and take care of their families, so we can take care of the families out here and do what we have in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, well said. So I know that this is a public podcast that we put out to the entire community. It's part of your commitment to transparency, but we also send this internally to our own teams, to our officers, to our detectives, to our leadership, to our civilians, to all of the support. So I think now is the time, chaplains, to put out that call for our own teams that might be watching this. We've launched an internal newsletter. I know that, in communications, we're working harder to be able to communicate with our work family. What do you want to tell them? Anybody that, look, not everybody works at this building headquarters. Not everybody works Monday through Friday, regular hours, this and that. There are people spread throughout this gigantic city working all around the clock. What is your message to the officers, the staff members that might have never seen you two in person? Yeah, I mean, I know there's roll calls, but might not be familiar with everything. What's the call to action if they are looking for resources?
We don't have office hours. We're 24/7. Our phones are always on. We're in EIS. You can find us. Our phone number's in there. We've got an office in the PMB. For right now, we'll be moving down to Florida Blue at some point later this year.
5 months, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully.
Allegedly.
But we're able to be reached whenever you need us. That would be what I'd have to say. I'm sure Cory might want to add something to that.
Yeah, to piggyback on the sheriff, if I could, folks that endure what they endure on a daily basis in this job have bad days. They have tough times. And we tell people all the time when we go out, there's a stigma, for lack of better words, or a mindset, both military, law enforcement, those kind of professions, that you don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about your injuries. You don't talk about your faith. You don't go get help because you'll be viewed as weak. And if you do, then you'll be judged. And I think it's devastating to the members of those organizations that their leadership would not promote resiliency and promote getting help when you need help. And that's why I'm so grateful for the initiatives that the sheriff and the other sheriff has put in place, and why Greg and I are so thankful to be a part of that. And so we're trying to break down those barriers and those walls and let people know that and Greg says it all the time. He says, it's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. And when we ask you how you're doing, we really want to know how you're doing. And so we're just a phone call away. And it doesn't matter if it's marital constraints. It doesn't matter if it's your children. We tell people we're here for you. We're here for your family, because as the sheriff said, the healthier officer, the better officer, and the better version of that officer that the public's going to get. And we love people. And so we want to be there for you and with you. And you are not a bother to us, and you are not a hindrance to us, and it's never a bad time. And so pick up the phone, and make that phone call, and feel free to have those difficult conversations when nobody wants to have those difficult conversations, because that's literally what we're here for. And that's literally our full-time job that sheriff and undersheriff have moved mountains to make happen, so that we can be at your beck and call, and you're never a disturbance. And so it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there, because there's way too many resources available to you. Everybody has a bad day, and everybody needs help sometimes. So we love you. We're praying for you, and we're always available to you. Anything that we can do.
That's it.
Please.
For the longest, it was suck it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It didn't matter what the situation was. It was suck it up. No crying in baseball. No whining. Well, sometimes you cry. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have days where you're really struggling. So I would say you don't have to struggle. And when you are, there's a number for you to call. And these guys are 100%. They are 100% there and ready and willing to take care of you guys when you call them. So do that.
All right. I think that's a home run, unless there's anything that we missed here, gentlemen.
No?
Yeah, good. Absolutely. We talked about the health and wellness section. We're putting out more videos there, podcasts with health and wellness as well. So, there's the physical health, there's the mental health, there's the spiritual health, and they all seem to be married together in overall health and wellness. And, I love to see it. I love to see the progression. I know that there's a bright future ahead, and this is just getting started. It really is. And it's growing every week.
One of the things we'd like to see in the future is we want an extended invitation to people of faith, regardless of what that faith is, your faith. If you want to share that with the people, if you want people to know who you are and where you stand, then we invite you to come and tell us and let us know. We plan to hopefully do some testimonial videos in the future to where people can get out there and share their faith with their peers, so everybody knows exactly who they are, what they stand for, and who they stand for, and maybe reveal some things to people that didn't know about them.
All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming in. And look, we kept it shorter than all of your church services, Pastor. He's got the long ones.
Maybe waving the white flag, but it's all in the good name of the Lord.
Of course. So Sheriff, thank you, and we'll continue to spread the word about this for anybody internally. Reach out. We can connect you with the resources. For anybody externally, you heard it from them, and we'll continue to see the growth.
Absolutely.
And the progression. We'll catch you on the next episode of Inside JSO. Appreciate you for watching.